Okay, now that the injector's done, look at how foamy, right? So we're not low on fluid, but it's getting aerated like crazy. Hopefully it's not getting aerated from the pump itself. Hopefully it's just old, gross fluid with bits of dirt and crap in it from me dropping the goddamn stick. We've got plenty of fluid. I got 2 cans of this stuff because 60 bucks, but it saves us having to switch out the pump if all it is the fluid. So I definitely want to check that first. Yeah, just got to figure out, I guess I'll probably siphon that out like an idiot because I don't want it dribbling everywhere and my little hand pump stopped working. Oh, there you go. I siphoned out what was in the reservoir, and I think it's fair to say this fluid is done, right? That's pretty bad. Oh, look at the reflection of the light. It makes butt cheeks. You guys see that? I'm like 8 years old. So here's our idea, right, to copy essentially what that guy did and hope that he was right. Yeah, this hooked up on the return line there, so it can't go high enough to come off the top, so it's just as good as having a plug. The return line I have with its own clamp stuck to this, so hopefully it's not super violent and sprays everywhere. We'll find out. This could make a heck of a mess. Yeah, and then this is empty, so I'm gonna go ahead and start the car and let that pump a bunch through. Well, that'll put a bunch of air in the system. No, we should pour into here first. So we'll put a bunch into here, start it up, come over, see how quickly it's draining and if we're going to be able to keep up or not. Hopefully it doesn't drain very fast, and it only drains when you actually turn the wheel and use the fluid. I would imagine it recircs, and then when you push it into the steering rack it goes. We also got it up on jack stands about 1 inch off the ground so that there's no load on the wheels when we reach in and turn it. So yeah, let me get set up a little better here. Okay, let's see if it makes a mess. Yeah. There's probably still air in the diesel line. There we go. Oh yeah, that's coming through actually real fast. Nope. I can't reach it. Well, we got most of the bad stuff out. Let's just maybe it'll be fine like this. Because we're not loading the rack. It's not like it's actually dry, right? It just doesn't have fluid in it. So maybe, I kind of like this idea now. I don't think we're putting it any. So definitely spits a lot out there. Whoever said online they did that may have been joking, but what I did notice is after I poured in that next stack, it's making green foam instead of brown foam. And of course it's going to make foam because we're introducing air as the entire part of the process. So I'm okay with that. We'll see how she goes. We're going to hook the lines back up where they should be and just put fluid in and see how it turns out. There may be a little residual brown in the very ends of the rack, but if it's a matter of too much water in the fluid, then we should get a minimal amount of water left after putting in a bunch more new. So yeah, it was a fun $30. I still got one bin left, so hopefully that's enough. Okay, the reservoir is back together and full. Cap's on. It's going to move a bunch of it down. Hopefully it doesn't make a ruckus. We can just top it off while it's running. Yeah, needs more for sure. still hear the pump a little bit, but there's probably air still trapped in there, so. Way quieter than it was before. And granted, we just aerated the snot out of that oil. Maybe we have to let it sit for a little bit, get those bubbles out, but they should work out over time if the fluid's proper. This thing was just screaming though when I parked it. It was part of what made me want to do the injectors now. So I was like, well, I really shouldn't be driving it. I have to see, you're supposed to check this level, put on or off. But we drew quite a bit more down in and it's all foamy. So gonna shut her off. We drove it and it didn't take long to start acting kind of weird. Steering got kind of jerky. It was clearly still making noise and foaming up. So it's not the pump. Yeah, but we got a leak, right? So there's a bunch of fluid coming out. The more I drove it, the more the fluid would go. So we essentially took $60 of new fluid and threw it on the ground all over town and here in my driveway. So steering racks for that are not cheap. So we're going to try to dig in there and look at it a little closer. I can't really see, like I can see leak, but I can't see the source of it very well. So we'll get it up in the air just enough to get that passenger wheel off. Hopefully we can poke in there and see a little better what's going on. I mean, how great would it be if it was just a line, but I don't think it's going to be the case. I think there's going to be some seal has bit the dust. Probably the seal that's underneath the boot. That's my guess so far. We'll get it up and look at it, but I'm going to leave it down there to do any of the work on it. One, because the ground's a little more level, so you know I don't like using jack stands on an angle. And two, so we can get this thing in and out, right? Because we'll have to order something for that. It might be sitting up with its wheels off for a few days while we wait for that to show up. So first we'll take a look. So here we go. So I stuck the borescope at work up in there and saw that fitting was dry. The one further down there I can see now it's dry, like nothing on top is wet. We got wet dripping off of the control arm and wet coming off the bottom of the boot, right? And the top of the boot's dry. So I'm thinking that the seal on the end of that has just lost it, right? It's not holding anymore. We're sucking air in as well as leaking stuff. I mean, well, we're sucking air at the top, but we're pushing it out here. And what I wonder if it leaks out and like into the boot, and then when you turn right, the boot squishes the fluid out, right? So I think what we'll do, we could probably take the boot off, and I bet it's full of fluid. Likewise, if I just take the spring clamp off and push it in with my hand, I bet a bunch comes out. If it does, then we know for sure that it's something inside the rack. We'll need to take the rack out. Now, if you see that big bolt on top, it'll kind of, yeah, right there. There's only two. There's only two bolts, and I hope that's a captive nut in there. It looks like one of the weld-on types. There's only two to hold it on. So there's two lines, two nuts, and your rod ends. Yeah, so I pushed it back and it squirted a bunch out. So that's what it is. We're leaking into that boot. It's not supposed to get into that boot. That boot's supposed to keep dirt out, not fluid in. Look at what I finally got. So I finally have a tripod so we can get a little bit of elevation and, you know, grippy it to stuff, different angles. It's one of the Gorilla Pod ones that just really nice for the price sort of thing. And then our pickle forks came in. Since I can't find mine, I ordered some. I also ordered some that have the adapter for the air gun. So let's give the tripod a try by opening up these. And we'll work on the van some today. I'll probably wait till later in the evening when it cools off since it's out in the sun. So we'll work on getting this thing on the ground first. And then later we'll see if we can get the tie rods off of that car. Tripod. I can already tell it's going to be better just because we can angle things. I can still see the screen, so hopefully I'll be smart enough to keep it in frame. But yeah, so if I ever do find my pickle forks, they're the solid aluminum ones with the narrow handles, you know, good for beating on with hammers. This has a screw-on handle. I'm sure I can beat on just fine. Stinger, OTC. So there's like OTC or Lily or Astra, they're like the ones that make these tools. So these actually look really nice. They have a good finish on them. They have numbers, so they're official. And then yeah, here's the air hammer attachment. So we'll have to give that a try. And then just a regular hit it with your hammer sort of deal. Good. Yeah, I'm satisfied with that. Ooh, it comes with directions. Select correct fork size. Tighten jam nut. Yeah, I know I said I was going to wait till later, but we got new toys, so I just got to try them out. We're going to try the air hammer one. I've actually never used pickle fork on an air hammer, so I'm not sure how well it works, but we'll find out. Works about how I expected, not at all. So we'll switch it out and get a real hammer. There we go. Small one first. Go. Yep. Nice. So yeah, air hammer can go have sex with itself. Well, I slept too much yesterday. I ended up sleeping for like 14 hours, so nice early start today. Things are still cool out. I took the fender liner off thinking it might give me more space here, but now there's a big frame rail in the way. Ooh. Probably going the other direction, I think. Anyway, so all we have left is there's 2 bolts. Right, there's one down there, one up here. Right, two bolts holding the rack on. We've got 2 hoses, pressure lines, whatever, here and here, and then the coupling to the steering column. So we're going to pull these off next. There's a 10 millimeter, and this one's a 17, the lower one. I think the upper one's a 15, but we'll find out once this stuff's out of the way. Might actually be part of that upper hose. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe they don't go together. It's not a thing. Maybe it's a 50. I'm gonna need my cup. Yeah, so you can see that upper part of the clamp is actually part of the line and then holds the lower one on. So maybe we'll be able to wiggle that lower out of the way to get to the upper connection there, but what a pain in the butt. So it's behind those 2. So there's a heat shield in the way of the steering portion. Looks like 10 millimeter. It's way too crammed under here for me to try to get a view and get my hands on it. So 2 10 millimeter bolts. I'll pull those off, get that shield off, and see what's back there. I'm hoping a 13, so that's what I brought with me for the pinch nut, but we'll see. Okay, so there's that. Well, that'd be hard to see because it's all brown, but that nut's up in there on that collar, and it's 16 millimeter. Same thing, I'm not going to be able to get an angle on it and be able to take it off at the same time. So camera needs to charge the battery up anyway. I miss the days when Volkswagen Audi was all odd numbers except 10mm. It's like now I got steering racks held on by 18, pinch nuts at 16. Like, I'm using all these tools that I never had to use before. So let's get some juice in this. I'll check back in. I'm trying to wiggle the rack out. Okay, so there's absolutely no way that that's coming out without dropping this frame down. So what I've done, see over here, it's a 21mm, pulled it out, and then 5 threads worth back into the frame. That should be enough to support any of the weight. Hopefully that's enough that this will slide out this way. It has to come out this way. It can't go that way. Flange on the other side's in the way of the transmission, well, front transfer case actually. The transmission's back here, and then a shaft comes, transmission's back there, and shaft comes forward to the front transfer case. Either way, I'm gonna jump to the other side, lower this frame with the jack, let it pivot down. Now the guys I saw, I don't know what Asian country, but none of it was in English, so I just kind of like looked at what bolts they were taking out. They took all 4 of these out and dropped the whole frame down quite a ways. I really don't want to have to do that. I don't have, well, I'd have to grab a bunch of jacks from the garage and from the shed and basically have jacks, at least 3 jacks on the frame, so that I can pivot it and make it come down the way I want. Hopefully this drops enough that we can slide things out. You guys need to get out of here. I gotta be careful. Right here in the bottom, I already unplugged it. This guy right here goes into an electrical connection in the bottom of the rack, and that's the speed sensor, so that you get more or less assist based on speed right here. Now that these hoses are moving, I'm getting closer. That thing's so damn tall. I need to like pivot it. I'm gonna get out from underneath. Fuck out of there. Oh my god. Look at all the fluid that just came out. So I'm not able to drop this enough without lowering the whole subframe to get it out this way, but I can get it out by pushing it through and pivoting it down if I pull this tie rod off. When I pop that boot, like, look, that's so much fluid. You're not supposed to have fluid in there. It's supposed to be grease, and it's supposed to be sealed off. So yeah, this rack was just leaking on both sides in a matter of time before it was just roached like it is now. There we go. So, officially halfway there. Son of a bitch.